How's everybody doing? It's Cevan. Join with me today is Tyler and Reed, and today we have another very special guest with Sumner. So this is episode 16 of Likely to Dispute.
As you could probably guess, we are doing a team breakdown here with Mr. Andrew Sumner. Andrew, say what's up to the crowd.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
For those of you who don't know, Andrew and I met at the University of Iowa working for the baseball team, and we've stayed close friends ever since. So a lot of you guys didn't really know who he was and still might not know who he is. But now you all, this is your official intro. So going to do a team breakdown for him this week. But first, we're going to kick it to Tyler to give us the question of the day.
Yeah, so I thought of this earlier. The question is if you could add one position or positional group to our league, and let's assume the scoring is balanced. We balance it out, figure it out in sleeper. What position group would you guys add? Like maybe a punter, kicker, linebackers. Let's steer away from IDP as a whole group, but
Okay, I guess I'll go first here. I think pass rusher is the obvious thing.
like I guess like a lineman or.
Well, how many other options are there
So you
for?
could say like linemen, linebackers, like defensive backs, but I'm saying just like as opposed to just one IDP spot or something like that.
Okay,
Or you could
well,
like add offensive linemen, punters, kickers. I guess those are all the options then.
why don't you go first? You tell us what you'd pick.
I think adding punters would be a lot of fun. I know I know I've seen on Twitter sometimes people do punter leagues and I've seen some pretty funny tweets about that, but I think punters in Dynasty would be hilarious
Who would be
and a
the
lot.
101 of the punter picks, Tyler?
Uh, the Raiders punter, I think, what's his name?
AJ Cole?
Uh, yeah, yeah. I think that's my pick.
Savan, do you have any thoughts?
I'll just take corners, just because they have a lot of attitude and it's fun. They're fun position group.
I have no unique response to this. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say here, so my only answer got shot down. So
What
I'm
was
a
your only
pass.
answer?
Pass rushers.
No, you could say like defensive line. Like, yeah,
Defensive line, okay, well sometimes linebackers are pass rushers too.
that's a fence sitting answer.
I, I, I see. I guess you're right. I guess I should have previewed the question of the day. God, Sumner, do you have any unique thoughts here?
I don't know about anything that hasn't been said. I mean, linemen, do we have stats we can
Yeah,
track with? Or, I'm sorry, like offensive linemen,
I
to be
think
more
that's a
specific,
I think
like pancakes and stuff.
that was my second choice was O-line. Or it's like they can't really score positive, but they can score negative.
Right.
Well, then I would just
Yeah.
not start one each week if they can only score negative.
The rules say you have to start someone every week in your lineup. That
Okay, I'll
in
start
the
a backup.
Constitution.
That's true. Well, whatever
No, but it's
genius
like the
wrote
whole
that was on
team
top of it.
unit, like the defense reads. So you can't just start a backup. You can't start a backup team.
Hmm,
That's fair.
that's a good
That's a good
point too.
point. Okay. Well, we're gonna move off that question. Okay,
No
we're
offense,
gonna.
I think that was the worst question of the day of all time.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
thought
gonna
it
lie.
was I thought it
Tyler,
was good.
the question of the days have been a strong suit for years, and that was
It's
not at the
like
top of the list.
it's just like pick a non-standard position to have in our league. That's not
Shame.
IDP because IDP is still borderline standard. So
Well, Savon's still trying to deport kickers out of our redraft league,
Yeah,
so okay.
yeah.
Moving on the team breakdown here. We've got Mr. Andrew Sumner here. Power ranking tier. All four of us have him in the playoff aspirations tier. Keep Trade Cut has him pretty middle of the pack across the board at every position. As we all know, far and away the oldest average team age in the league, hence the team summary picture up there. But he is fourth in draft capital right now. Last year he did finish in 11th, but that was a 6-8 record still, which is kind of wild that the 11th team in the league was 6-8, and the last team in the playoffs was 7-7. And then he was 11th in points for though. So looking for a bounce back year here in year two of the league here for Clifford, the big red dog. Well, we're gonna start with you, Andrew. Why do you have yourself as a team with playoff aspirations, and why not higher? Usually, people are usually higher on their own team than consensus. So, why do you have yourself in playoff aspirations?
Yeah, I believe, I know you just sent me the kind of tiers we were going off of,
Yeah,
but,
we have the favorites tier, the contenders
oh,
tier, the playoff aspirations tier, and then the maybe next year tier.
yep, thanks. I think just between the next tier up contenders, I'd like to think that I am, but I know, that age is definitely a factor, and obviously the performance last year wasn't anything terrific. I see some potential here, so that's, definitely where I got myself in playoff aspirations, but, coming off a 6-8 year, I don't love the way my team kind of like stacks up based on the performances last year. So I don't know that I would necessarily like kind of leapfrog or made any sort of serious climb from last year that puts me in the contenders, right? Having been the second to last team last year. So
Hmm.
I think that's kind of where I'm at. Still thinking, I have a chance at getting in that playoff frame, but no matter how far I can go when it comes time for that, the
Yep.
jury's kind of out there.
A very fair evaluation, something that three of us failed to do in our own personal team breakdowns. Tyler, do you have any thoughts here on the playoff aspirations tier for Andrew?
It's just, I think it's part of a group that I'd probably include myself in now as well. That it's just kind of the middle of the league where it's really hard to separate these teams. So um, I think it's just kind of the state of the league right now where there's a lot of teams clumped
Hmm.
up in the middle right here.
Yeah, that's fair. Cevan, you're a noted hater of Andrew's team. Do you have any thoughts here on his playoff aspirations?
That was a crazy opening. No, I think Andrew's got the most polarizing team and the widest range of outcomes, and so playoff aspirations seems fair because I can see anywhere from getting last to squeezing in the playoffs and being a getting a getting a bye. So just just strictly because uh, there's so much stuff. There's so many players on the team that have a wide range, and so when you have that many players, it just makes your outcome volatile.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't have anything unique to say. I'm agreeing with them that the range of outcomes is wide. He's in a solid spot within this tier, but a lot of teams in this tier for me. So starting here with the MVP, Andrew has himself his team MVP as Christian McCaffrey. Not a polarizing answer. Andrew, why is Christian McCaffrey the MVP of your team?
Sorry, I was getting a phone call. Why is he the most polarizing player on
So
my
no,
team?
no. Why is he the MVP of your team?
Why is he the MVP of my team?
Hmm.
I think that just as far as like best player goes, right, he's there.
Hmm.
The way I took this question was just like, at the end of the day, who's gonna be my best player next year? I didn't really look at it from like a value perspective, right?
Hmm.
Like who's providing from that. I know sometimes people can go there with that, but I think a healthy season from him, if it right, like we talk about the range of outcomes with this team, I think if it's at the top end of that scale, and there is somebody that's driving potential success for this team, it starts with him. So it starts with him, a healthy season, good consistent performance, and then a couple of lucky bounces throughout the rest of the roster. But I
Hmm.
think just as far as like most talented player, you know, when all goes well, I think if he's healthy at the end of the year, it's gonna be a good outcome.
Yeah. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. And Tyler for sure does not disagree with that, as he also has McCaffrey as your MVP. Tyler, anything else there?
Yeah, with McCaffrey, I mean, you can't bring up Christian McCaffrey without bringing up injuries as well. But he didn't do much in 2020 or 2021, but that proved to be, not much of a factor in how his 2022 and 2023 seasons turned out when he was the number two running back and number one running back in 2023. So with even though his season last year was tampered with injuries, they weren't, super serious injuries that should have lingering effects this year. There's no Achilles tear, wasn't an ACL thing, Achilles tendonitis and a calf strain. So I think, you know, Christian McCaffrey is 29, so I don't think he's quite at the run back fall off age quite yet, especially for someone who's been so productive. I still think he has plenty of miles left on the tread, so I think he's a pretty good bet for MVP this year.
Yeah. I don't think Cevan or I specifically disagree with that at all. We both went with Alvin Kamara instead. Cevan, Alvin Kamara is the MVP over CMC. Why is that?
Yeah, Kamara is just his whole career, 7 years. He's 7 out of his 8 years. He's finished top 12. Um, just not in 2022. The only he's played a full season, only his rookie year, and he still was able to get inside the top 12 7 times. So he's a high PPR guy. He's never ran for 1,000, but especially this year with the team looking so bad, I could see this being his career high in receptions, which is 83. Um, but yeah, he's consistently getting uh, receptions, which is huge for running backs in fantasy. And yeah, I think him and Christian are pretty similar style football players. Christian obviously a little better runner, but I like the PPR upside and um, the health situation a little better for Kamara.
hmm Yeah, I have pretty similar thoughts, especially when you look at the fact they're likely going to be led by a rookie quarterback that really doesn't have any rushing upside himself. That's going to be goal line touches for Kamara. That's going to be checkdowns from him. Even if the team is bad, you're still looking again at a running back that has a lot of PPR upside that can be, in the game on, when they're airing it out for the second half because they're down by 20 points. He's going to be on the field. He's going to be the one getting those receptions. So he's a rare player that has an insanely high floor, but his ceiling is also a top three running back. So no disrespect to Christian McCaffrey, his ceiling is definitely higher. But Kamara's floor is wild, and he also presents top five upside. So definitely a fan of both of them. They're going to be the engine that moves his team this year. Is what he can get out of these two together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tyler. Off the MVP, most improved. Andrew has the GOAT, Trevor Lawrence, new offensive system, new wide receiver slash cornerback, new play caller, all that good stuff. Andrew, anything to say on Trevor Lawrence here as the most improved?
Honestly, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there. That's a lot of the reason that I've got, right? Like new system, kind of fresh start, some new weapons. Anecdotally, I feel like we've seen stuff like this in the past with some quarterbacks where, just kind of a fresh start like this, kind of a change of scenery, to provide a nice boost in value. So I kind of see that for Trevor Lawrence, right? Like we've seen flashes, kind of a down year, but missed games last year. But I think Liam Cohen, seeing what he did with the Buccaneers, how he utilized Baker Mayfield and the weapons around him, and now kind of giving that system to Trevor Lawrence, right? Like that's where I kind of see this as optimistic. Um, the track records there as far as number one overall pick. He's obviously got like the talent and things like that. So I think again, change of scenery here is where I see him kind of taking that next step. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that first off, Tyler and I are both on your side here. I think with Lawrence, it's such a clear coaching upgrade. Like not just like to remove Liam Cohen out of the picture, like the coaches he's had, starting with Urban Meyer and then going to Doug Peterson, where he had a great year in a second year. When Doug Peterson was there, it was fresh, he was new. Peterson was still kind of on top of his game, and then the last 2 years, as they kind of started to slowly trend down, you know, everyone kind of started to see that maybe this isn't Trevor's fault because we've seen what he can provide. Like he was very, very good in that second year, and I just don't see any way that doesn't get better this year. And again, they added Travis Hunter. Brian Thomas is still awesome. Three-headed running back duo. And like you said, the ability for Liam Cohen to use players in ways that maximizes their strengths. To see what he got out of the Buccaneers skill group last year, even when there was injuries, was very impressive. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that Trevor Lawrence is a more talented player than Baker Mayfield is, and Baker threw for 40 touchdowns last year, which we'll talk about here shortly. But yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is a smash here. Tyler, anything else to say on T-Law?
Yeah, this might be the most layup pick for me in
Hmm.
this most improved section of all the teams we've done so far. I know Savan's a hater and maybe he'll have something to say, but Lawrence was a QB8 in 2022, like you were saying, really good year there. And his injury last year was on the non-thrown shoulder. So
Hmm.
I don't think there's any reason to be too concerned about health going into the year. And Yeah, I'm all in. I'm buying the Jags offense this year.
Hmm.
So
Agreed.
You
Savan,
guys, you guys have no concern over a first-time head coach in a new system?
haven't you been jacking off the Bears the last
I
like
was gonna
7
say
years
Ben
for
Johnson.
Ben Johnson? Watch it, buddy. Savan, as the lone detractor from the Trevor Lawrence hive mind, why do you have Javonte Williams here, who we've already talked about in another team's episode? So try to keep it brief here with Javonte.
But
Uh,
hold on, real quick. What did you guys say about Javante Williams in the last or the previous episode?
Honestly, I think
Uh,
we all were relatively high purely on the
yeah,
situation at this point. Like the Cowboys have a history of running the ball effectively. Their offensive line is good. The offense should be good, but the player is very meh. But he's in such a great situation that he could fall into 10 touchdowns this year and end up catching a bunch of checkdowns and like be a fantasy relevant player. So I think generally we were all relatively high on the player
yeah.
overall.
based on his value, more or less.
Yes, yes, correct. I mean, I believe he's like in a redraft leagues, he's like the last NFL RB1 to get drafted. Like no other team's number one running back is drafted later than him. So again, at that point, for a team with the offensive line that they have, even if Javonte Williams is straight up toast at this point, he's going to have the opportunity to get it done because there's very little true competition to take goal line touches away from him or early down work.
I think yeah, and the 2027 second that you gave up, I think is a perfectly reasonable gamble
Hmm.
for him.
Especially when you're at a point here where you're going not necessarily all in this year, but like you're in a championship window right now, given the team composition you have. Like I don't see any problem with the trade for either side, honestly. But Savan, anything else on Javonte Williams?
Nope, you just did it all for me.
Nailed it. Okay, well we'll look back and see and wonder why you didn't put Trevor Lawrence here in a couple months. Sleeper. Oh my God, I put my own name here. Rip. Okay.
No, that was me because you tried to troll me in my hot take
Okay,
section.
good. I was
I
gonna
just
say,
caught it.
I don't know why I would have put this here, but this is very clearly Jordan Mason and not. I mean, I'll suit up if they want me to. Like, you can give me the goal line touches, but Andrew, you have Jordan Mason here as your sleeper. Why is Jordan Mason a sleeper this year?
Yeah, so my sleeper is not Reed. Yeah, believe it or not, even though Reed clearly planted
Yeah.
this to try and have me
Mhm.
hype him up
I've
Exactly.
during this
I've
portion of the show.
I've read in the overrated section.
That's brutal.
Good, I do too. So anyway, Jordan Mason. Yeah, I think he's got a sleeper. I don't know. I'm a Vikings fan for a little context, but admittedly, I don't follow the beat too closely to like know what the buzz is here. But I just feel like there's something going on with this situation where bringing him in with Aaron Jones, I think there might be a little more volume on the Jordan Mason side of that equation than maybe might be commonly thought of across fantasy football or just football in general. Just with the age of Aaron Jones and you see across the league a lot of like two back systems. I think the Lions is a great example. I'm not trying to compare those backfields by any means, but just seeing that it works right and works with providing two valuable fantasy options from that standpoint. So, um, like I guess just really there, like, again, the
Hmm.
volume perspective, thinking that Jordan Mason might see a solid role, or there's potential for it at least, in a good offense. And I
Hmm.
think Vikings have shown the capacity to put up points, and if you can get a valuable back there, right, for the I guess price that I got him in the initial draft, and then what he's been over the past couple of years, really just more so as a kind of handcuff to McCaffrey. I see some potential there where he actually provides value to this team in my starting lineup at some point in the season.
Hmm. Yeah, all good points there. And I know one man here. Okay, sorry, nope, different section.
Yeah.
Uh, there is some agreements on Jordan Mason there, but Savon, we're going to start with you. Two-way athlete at Notre Dame. Cole Kmet is your sleeper. Why is Cole Kmet a sleeper after they just drafted Colston Loveland?
Yeah, he's never missed a game in his career. He's paid. Yeah, he got an extension last offseason, and the perceived offensive upgrade in system. I'm not gonna compare him straight to Laporta. They did that already for me, and so just with looking what Laporta did, and the new system wanting to use two tight ends more often, even though they have a gajillion receivers, an improvement from tight end 19 seems pretty easy. He led the entire league in catch rate percentage. I believe it was just over 85%. But he had almost a career low in targets and receptions last year. So uh, I think it's going to be a higher passing volume than last year and much better situation. And so I think top 12 is in the outcomes. He's a good red zone threat. And yeah, it's just tight end 19 is like doing nothing. And so I think should improve on that pretty
It's
easily.
interesting you're using Laporta as the comp and not Brock Wright for Cole Kmet because that seems more likely to be his role than Sam
I,
Laporta.
I don't see a world where Cole Kmet catches 12 balls next year.
Interesting.
It's not possible.
Tyler, Calvin Ridley, new quarterback, your boy Cam Ward. Calvin Ridley's a sleeper. Why is that?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley's one of my favorite sleepers this year. I like looking at him in redraft. In the past 2 seasons, he's played a full season, and in each of the last 2 years, he's also eclipsed 1,000 yards. So I think he's sneakily underrated, and that's why I kind of am in the sleeper section. The Titans last year were a bottom five situation in the quarterback room last year. And so, with seemingly an upgrade, perhaps with Cam Ward this year, I think Ridley will be, his number one look each week. And I think Ridley, will have his third season in a row where he clips 1,000 yards, and possibly it comes with a bit more touchdowns. He had four last year, so maybe a bump up to somewhere to the 6 to 10 range. Ridley was a top 30 wide receiver last year, and I think I really like Ridley because I don't want to say he's like a smash start every week, but it's going to be pretty rare that he gives you a complete dud, even if he is kind of in that, 10 to 18 range quite a bit. That's still, a solid amount of points to bank on from a wide receiver spot every week. So I think Calvin Ridley slept on. I think he's a great wide receiver 2, 3 to have on your team. So I'm excited to hopefully see Cam Ward sling him the rock quite a bit.
You'd think the equation with him is pretty simple. I mean, they added no more target competition, but they upgraded his quarterback. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't see any way he gets worse. Like, it was like the only way he can go is up or stay where he is. So it feels like the equation is pretty simple with him. So I'm a Ridley fan as well. My sleeper, I have Ramondre Stevenson. I think I'm just a notoriously cautious guy when it comes to rookies and what their role is going to be. I'm definitely not on the upward swing when it comes to guys like that. So I think that people assuming that he's going to get less work than, sorry, I think people are assuming he's going to get less work than he is. I mean, Trevion Henderson was not in a three down role at Ohio State. Judkins was there getting a lot of touches, especially the goal line stuff. Like, if we're assuming this Patriots offense is going to be improved from last year, given everything that's changed over the offseason, like, they're going to be in the red zone more. They're going to get more touches in the red zone, more running back work in the red zone. And that's where I think Stevenson comes in. Henderson's a smaller back. Like, I think there's a real chance Stevenson is going to be the guy who gets those touches, who gets the early down work, who gets the goal line touches that Henderson, functions elite in a third down role as an elite pass protector and pass catcher. And not to say he won't get carries because he will, but I still think there's a role here for Stevenson in an improved offense to potentially carve out a role that has value from a fantasy perspective, especially for what people are kind of valuing him at now. I think there's value for him there.
7 fumbles last year.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Fumbles are awesome. That's why I was all in on Antonio Gibson back in the day. I love fumbles, so I'm good there. Speaking of that, he was replaced by Antonio Gibson last year. And then he didn't because he still had all the touches that week anyway, because that doesn't matter. Whatever. Off the sleeper, on to best value. Andrew, this might be a controversial one. We've talked about it off pod here. You have Brian Robinson, who this is who you traded JJ McCarthy for Brian Robinson and a 2026 first round pick. Why is Brian Robinson the best value on your team for how you acquired them?
Yeah, I think this one is really just the context of that trade. Um, I really hope, JJ McCarthy is a good player, but I think just with the not having stepped on a football field, right, like there is never a guarantee there. So I think the fact that I was able to trade him for a first round pick, 1 for 1, if we just look at it that way, that's kind of where that value is in my mind. And then the fact that I got Brian Robinson on top of it just seemed like a little bit of a plus to me. I think there's was definitely some concern over the offseason where it's like, all right, contract year, are they going to bring in another back that kind of takes some of that role away, diminishes his value from that perspective? But seemingly, from what I know, it seems like Brian Robinson is, I guess like primed for another year as the lead back to be the focus of another good offense. So I think that kind of hesitancy, that uncertainty of him throughout the offseason maybe allowed me to get him in that trade in the first place. And so I think considering what I gave up, right, with no guarantee there for JJ McCarthy, just seemed like a plus plus to me. So, and again, another guy that I see, real potential to have contributions to my team this year. So to get that again on top of that first round pick
Hmm.
for JJ McCarthy was a solid value in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who's has not been high on JJ McCarthy, I think getting a 2026 first for him is awesome. So if you treat Brian Robinson as kind of a throw into that trade, I mean that is great value right there. I mean, I'm not the highest on Robinson either, but as basically a throw in piece, like I'm totally with you there on the
Right.
value he has there.
The real quick on Brian Robinson, the
Hmm.
way when I saw this got entered in, the way I thought about it was that you were thinking like he's a great value addition to your team because he already won a championship on my team. And so I'm fully in agreement with you there.
That's
Did he
true. That
get
was
a
uh
pick
that
and
was definitely
Jordan?
part of the equation, Savon. The
Yes.
experience factor, the like locker room presence, knowing what
Yep.
it's like to win, 100%, man.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Moving off of the Cevan Glaze, we're here at best value where we have three different answers here. I'll start because mine's pretty simple. Alvin Kamara was a seventh round pick in the inaugural draft. He already got one RB1 season out of him last year. I don't think anyone is doubting his ability to give at least one more RB1 season, if not past this season. So that's great value. Getting an RB1 in the seventh round, if not multiple seasons, is fantastic. We'll start, or actually, we're going to go to Tyler last because I know he's big on his answer. Savan, best value for Baker Mayfield. What do you got there?
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, he's only 30. He's ever since he's been on the Bucks, he's been QB 10 and QB 4 in our league settings. Getting that in the eighth round when you're drafting him to maybe be your QB 3 or more of a dart throw, and now he's yeah just coming off a top 5 season. They added more weapons with Emeka Egbuka. I know they're gonna have a new OC again, but all signs are pointing for him to stay in the top 12. And if you can have that as your QB 2, that's great, even though I view him more of a QB 1. But yeah, I just think for where he was drafted and what he's been doing, it's great value.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think anyone will fight you there. Yeah, what he was drafted to be versus what he's turned out to be. Great value there. Tyler, is this a soapbox moment for you on Jordan Mason? Because you've been pretty hard in your defense for him the last couple
Well,
days.
I want to separate. I do think Jordan Mason is the best value, but I'm separating that from our personal discussions where you think Jordan Mason is strictly a backup, and that's where I disagree. Jordan Mason, like just for context here, he was drafted in round 20 of the inaugural draft, which is, in my opinion, arguably the best value of the last 5 rounds of that draft. Jordan Mason, although he didn't, yeah, I mean, he filled in great for CMC at the beginning of the year, and then the rest of the year was kind of a nothing burger for him. But in my mind, I think Jordan Mason will be getting a fair amount of touches in the Vikings offense. I think he will be someone you can start in a pinch if you need to. And if Aaron Jones does go down, he's an elite option. Um, and so I think to get that in the 20th round where, no name rookies and, you know, vets who haven't been productive in 3, 4 years are going, to get Jordan Mason there basically for free is a great pickup and, just a great throw of the darts there. So I think Jordan Mason, I tried to acquire Jordan Mason, or at least asked about him earlier this year from Andrew, and totally understand wanting to keep him because I think he is a perfect, you know, bench running back that has potential to be a lot more than that. And he is maybe worth a trade for Jawan Jennings.
Jordan Mason, hot topic in our side chat the last couple weeks. So no fight here for me. I agree with everything you said there. So off of best value here, we are looking at overrated. And Andrew now has Baker Mayfield in his overrated section. Coming off a 40 touchdown season, Andrew, why is your boy Baker overrated?
Uh, I'm hoping he's not. They I just like the right quarterback 4 last year, quarterback 10 the year before. But I think about what it's taken for him to get to this point, right? Like think about his career up to that point. It really wasn't much. And so I think I just don't love the odds that, at this age, it's finally coming around for him. Like I just don't know if that's necessarily sustainable. And then it doesn't help losing right his main offensive coordinator now to Jacksonville, like we touched on earlier with deposit for Trevor Lawrence, right? So my team kind of benefiting from that, but potentially being hurt. And there's a good chance that I'm wrong here, and it is a matter of true talent for Baker, and he's really just finally turning the corner. But I think I'm a little fearful that it was a product of the system type of thing, and um, I really don't know much about who's running the offense now and what that's going to look like, and whether that can be as successful, maybe. But I think I'm just a little fearful there, and so I think, given the last 2 seasons, how awesome he's been, what he's meant for my team last year, I just have some skepticism regarding whether or not he can continue that going forward. Really.
Hmm. Yeah, I all good points there. I also have Baker Mayfield in this section. Kind of a similar attitude to you. Like, I don't think necessarily that he's a bad quarterback by any means. Like, I don't want him to perform worse than he did. But when you look at two main factors for me, the first one, you mentioned it, like Liam Cohen's gone. But to the Bucks' credit, this is now the second year in a row they've had an offensive coordinator take a head coaching job. They had Dave Canales 2 years ago become the head coach of the Panthers, who ended up having a great finish to their season. So people had the question this year, were they going to be able to keep that going without him? And now Liam Cohen steps in and does an even better job. I'm not saying that whoever comes in is going to top Liam Cohen's offensive structure last year, but I think there's at least hope that this isn't going to be a product of the system, that whoever comes in can continue to do what they've been doing. That's been great for Baker's skill set. The second part is, he threw 41 touchdowns last year, and the rate in which he was throwing touchdowns was just insane. Like it feels like that was like a top end outcome for him. And when you look at in redraft leagues, he's getting drafted by Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think anyone thinks that Baker Mayfield is on their caliber in terms of his pure drop back passer ability. So for me, obviously they added a Buka, but I'm still worried that, even if he still plays really well, he may only end the year with, 30 touchdown passes, which would be still one of the tops in the league. But that doesn't equate to a ton of fantasy success as a pure drop back passer who adds no value with his legs. So a little bit of touchdown regression from him could mean a significant drop in his total fantasy points, even if he plays really well as an NFL quarterback. So I still think he's a great quarterback, a solid option to have as your QB1 or QB2, but I am a little worried for him heading into next year with some just general regression from how he performed last year.
To be fair, in 2023 when he was QB10, he had 29 total touchdowns.
Hmm. Yes.
Um,
Well,
and so
I guess my point was like in redraft leagues, he's getting drafted as like quarterback 6 or 7
okay,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I think there are guys behind him with more rushing upside that could also match his passing output, but also add some value on the ground or maybe have a higher ceiling. But that's all. So yes, you're very right there. Like there is a definitely a floor with him now. I feel like there's a safe floor, but I just don't know if we see a ceiling that could reach what he did last year again.
Sorry,
So
maybe I missed it, but where do you think he should be going? If he's going around like QB6 right now, where do you think it's a good range for him?
um I mean, I think he's perfectly comfortable as like a back end quarterback one. So like in that 10 to 12 range, I'd be fine um drafting him at. Let me look at what his ADP is right now. Sorry, I'm in Dynasty right now. And I was like, wow, he is
He
not getting
he's
drafted as
he's
13.
he's QB7 right now with Knicks, Goff, Murray,
Hmm.
Herbert,
Yeah.
Purdy,
Yes,
Williams falling.
you're right. Yeah, so I mean, I like if you look at like even Goff, who's like a great comparison, like very little rushing upside, but great passer of the football, high touchdown rate last year. Like, why is Goff going 22 picks after Baker when they had very similar seasons, but um, you know, obviously they both lost their offensive coordinator. Like it just feels like they're great, very similar situations. Goff has a better rushing attack behind him, likely better offensive line, and we're drafting Goff 22 picks later. So just a little bit too high, although I still think he's comfortably in the quarterback one range. I just don't think drafting him next to Patrick Mahomes makes a lot of sense. Even though Cevan's a Patrick Mahomes hater now because he traded him away for peanuts. Tyler, Brian Robinson, overrated. Why is he overrated?
That I don't want to. This was a difficult section for me. I didn't think there was anyone that really stood out as overrated. So this is just. There's a time last year where Cevan was trying to sell me Brian Robinson. He's like, he's an RB1. And at the time, I think that was statistically true, and that just sticks in my brain. And
That sounds
I
like
don't,
Cevan.
I don't know
But
if
he was.
I don't
Chris
think
Hogan was a wide receiver one at 1.2.
Exactly.
no one is outright saying Brian Robinson's an RB1, but I think for me, why I put him here is I'm pretty worried about his situation this year. Like Eckler showed last year, he still had juice. They added Ja'Cory Krosky
No,
Merritt,
no, it's a
and
seventh
this.
round pick.
Okay, I I've been seeing a lot of good things about JCM in Washington this summer so far, but let's just talk about Brian Robinson here. I think the running backs going around him, Najee, ETN,
Oh, your
Javante.
guy.
I think I'd all take. Would you take Javante over Brian Robinson? I think I would.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
They're very similar players that they're likely touchdown dependent, and I like the Commanders to be a slightly better offense and
Okay.
more confident that Brian Robinson stays the lead back there.
This is okay. All these guys are in the same range and they're on Andrew's team. So can we just rank them real quick? One, two, three, three. Brian Robinson, Javante, and Ramondre.
That order. Actually, I lied. I take Ramondre over Mason, but Robinson's a clear first for me there.
Uh,
I don't think Mason was in that
yeah,
order. It was
Mason was
Ramondre.
Sorry, Robinson who and Ramondre?
Javante.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I take Ramondre over Javante, but Brian Robinson's still first for me.
I think I would go Brian, Javante, Ramondre.
Okay, what would you do, Andrew?
I think I would do the same as Cevan there. Brian, Javante, Ramondre.
Okay, so I guess I'm just a low man on Brian Robinson because I go Javante, Ramondre, Brian Robinson.
Oh, wow.
And no chance.
Maybe that's bad.
That's
Maybe that's
bad.
Brian's the only one he's guaranteed to be the lead back.
that's I just he was streaky last year, man, and I
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
just
mean, yes, he
definitely.
is he's very touchdown dependent. Like that is true. He doesn't catch a lot of passes, but the Commanders' offense is going to be really good. He has very little real competition to take away a lot of the touches that he has, and he at least looked good last year. Javante looked like crap last year, and yeah, he's in a situation where he could be the lead back, but he's not there because he was really good. He's there because he has the opportunity. But they also drafted two running backs, and I guess Miles Sanders is still there. But and then Ramondre, obviously they drafted a running back ahead of him, or a
yeah.
second round running back who, while I said like I said, I'm higher on Ramondre than it sounds like the other two are. But regardless, he could not get all the work that I expect him to. So Robinson is guaranteed to get work and is in a good offense. So I don't think it's a question that Robinson's one out of that group.
That's probably an
Yeah.
overreaction by me. I don't
A
know.
Tyler, I think you just need to stand firm with your pick, man. Don't
yeah,
let these guys
Yeah,
push
yeah,
you around here.
that's true. Yeah, Brian Robbins, he's overrated.
a
There you go.
commonplace of this pod is Tyler making crass statements that he immediately recants when Savan and I bully him.
I
Savan,
will.
go
Well,
ahead.
I was gonna say on Brian Robinson, I will say the last 2 years, aside from his rookie year when he took a bullet to the thigh, he always starts off the first 6 weeks like scoring a touchdown every week. And so I'm pretty sure I reached out to a bunch of people to try and sell during that last year. because that sounds exactly like me. Um, and I wasn't able to do it, and I'm glad I wasn't able to get a deal done because he helped me win a championship. But yeah, I'll just jump into Travis Hunter here.
Did he play in any of your playoff games?
I'd have to
I
look.
want to guess no, so I don't know if he helped you win a championship.
I will look while I talk about
How about
Travis
you look
Hunter.
after and then we could circle back because
Yeah.
I want you
So
to be all locked in on your Travis Hunter analysis here.
am I good to go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, Travis Hunter. Uh, love the talent. He's an elite prospect on both sides of the ball. Um, the way I'm thinking about this particular segment for the overrated is yes, you traded back to three and drafted him. I think that still signifies you probably, if you would have stick and picked, it would have been him. We'll just call him the third overall pick though. The way of all the content I've taken in this offseason and whatnot, I'm under the impression he's not going to be a super high offensive snap guy. Since putting Travis Hunter in the overrated, there was a beat report saying, like within the last 10 hours, saying uh, he's going to be involved heavily on offense early on. And so I've heard both ends of the spectrum all off season. So, I mean, it's literally just going to take till we get to the season. But for what I believe is he's going to be like a 60, 70% offensive guy. And I don't, I just wouldn't deem that worthy of the number three overall pick. Yeah, the risk reward is arguably the highest in the draft, maybe outside of Genty, but just what I believe. And so I love the player. It's just we'll see about what the snaps shake out to be.
In a hypothetical, Cevan, he got taken at 103. Where should he have gone in the draft if you were drafting?
If he was, I
Well,
mean, this is all
where
based
would
on what
like
I think
if
is
you're big board right now, if he wasn't at 103, where would you see his value more accurately drafted at?
and am I under the impression that he's gonna get like 60% of snaps?
Whatever you think his value is.
Um, Probably, and I'm a known Tet hater,
This is
but
true.
probably after Tet, so like 105.
Interesting. I I think I agree with some of the points you made, but I also think that they've said a lot of things indicating that offense will be his main focus. And as we talked about with Baker, the system that Liam Cohen puts together is heavy on screens and heavy on scheming guys into space, which is exactly what Travis Hunter is great at. So I feel like there's, even if he is a 70% snap player to start, like I don't feel like there's any way he's not going to make an impact. I mean, Brian Thomas is such a great player. He's not even going to be the number one option in their offense, which is kind of what I think up until the trade happened was kind of going to be expected that he would be in the Browns offense. So the fact that he's got now a running mate that takes a lot of the attention off of him, like I think there's a chance that there's a chance, like you said, a much smaller chance than if a receiver had gotten drafted where he, a pure receiver, like, we're talking about something different. But I was perfectly fine taking him at 102 or 103, but that is again just my opinion. So I think I disagree with the overrated section here, but I think it could be a roller coaster rookie year while they kind of, mix and match what his ideal usage is. So I think there's going to be ups and downs, but I think once it settles in by the second half of the year, I think he definitely becomes a worthwhile fantasy asset to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, literally nobody knows. I've heard
Hmm.
both sides if he's
Yeah.
going to be
Well, I mean,
strictly a corner, strictly a receiver, blah blah blah.
in their opening press conference, they're like, "Yeah, he's going to be primary offense. We're here to score touchdowns." And then after mini camp, they're like, "Oh yeah, he needed more work on offense, so that's why he was practicing
Exactly.
there." And now they're like, "Oh yeah, he's going to be primary offense." And it's just a lot of coach speak. Nobody literally has any idea. And I don't even know if like even after the preseason, like will we even have a good idea of how they're going to use him, or will they just kind of test out what he can do on both sides, but the splits of how he plays, I don't know. Like you said, it literally might be week one before we actually know what the hell is going on with his usage.
Exactly. And I did find the playoff Brian Robinson. He did not make an appearance in the lineup.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So you tell me the whole locker room presence isn't going to be as valuable as I thought it would be.
No, hey, uh, everybody gets a ring on the roster.
That's fair.
I would argue his championship presence is heightened on your team by not playing because then he's there simply for the vibes. Whereas like when you get somebody who's in the starting lineup, they're more focused on scoring points. He was
Yes,
focused only on supporting his teammates. So if Ryan Robinson isn't in your lineup, that's like a plus 15% for the rest of your lineup. So
there we
At the end of the
go.
day, that's what I'm trying to do here. It's just
exactly.
really create a good clubhouse culture,
Hmm.
a lot of chemistry between the players. So really just looking for guys that fit that mold.
Well, the good news
It's
is you
important here in
got
fantasy, right?
the good news is that you got a ton of veterans on the team, almost to a fault, to keep the vibes up. So we're
Hey,
good.
you guys certainly did me bogus with the grandpa picture earlier.
That was good.
I wasn't
Here,
sure what that was in reference to at the beginning, but once you explained it,
Yeah.
here,
yeah, it kind of makes sense.
for here's something for you, Sumner. I'm looking at Brian Robinson. The 2 weeks he would have played for me, weeks 16 and 17, he would have scored a combined 13 total points. So I'm glad he was not in the lineup, even though it wouldn't have mattered against Reed. But
Does that mean he's a playoff choker?
that means you just keep him on the bench.
Wow. So Tyler was
Okay,
right. Overrated.
overrated. Tyler, you win this one.
Wow.
Droppable. Andrew has Texans tight end Dalton Schultz. Andrew, is he droppable or is he just the most droppable?
I think just the most droppable. I think with my team, I don't see like a lot as just being clear, like I really don't care, don't see any sort of path for them type of thing. I guess that's kind of part of the intent here, right? But I think about Dalton Schultz and what he was in my mind when I took him in the inaugural draft, and it was like kind of just the hope that all right, the tight end, the primary tight end, or at least that was the hope at the time for the Texans offense. CJ Stroud coming off a great year, great rookie year, like there could be some value here for where I took him in that draft. And then to have him go and have the season he had last year was completely underwhelming. Um, I brought in Travis Kelce this offseason. You know, Cevan Sleeper, Cole Kmet, might still be in the mix there. Just a third tight end on a team that really don't ever see him becoming part of the mix. Um, Hoping that changes. Maybe this again, another change of scenery, right? Like new new offensive coordinator, I believe in Houston. So maybe that changes something for him. But uh, you know, I just don't really know if I see a role for him. If I do end up needing to create a roster spot, which it's no secret that I'm in a bit of roster crunch right now. He just would probably be one of those first names that I would look to move in some
Hmm.
capacity.
That's fair. I think we all feel somewhat similarly. Three players here that I don't think anyone is like, okay, yeah, there's no reason to own this player. We're going to go to Tyler last because we've also had some controversial discussions about this. Cevan, Hollywood Brown, is he droppable or is he just the most droppable?
We'll see if I can come to a conclusion by the end of this. But
Oh boy.
Hollywood Brown, I think he's proven over his NFL career that he is just a better NFL wide receiver than for fantasy. He's played 6 years in the league. He's been a top 24 wide receiver once, finishing as a wide receiver 22 in Baltimore in 2021. Outside of that, he's been 36 or lower the rest of his career. I know this is going to be his first year with the Chiefs. Um,
First full year with the Chiefs because he was hurt
yes,
all of last year with the Chiefs.
yes. But yeah, he's just a better NFL player. He's going to be for the Chiefs. He's going to play a role for the Chiefs that, in my opinion, won't boost or elevate his fantasy ceiling. He's always been a boomer bust type guy, and more often than not, he was busting.
Mm.
And so, yeah,
Wow,
I mean, his
nice
last 2 years, 23 and 22,
analysis.
wide receiver 52, wide receiver 44, wide receiver 36, wide receiver 46. There's never a time you're going to want to put him in the lineup, and so I really don't even think he's someone you can start in a pinch. And I don't think I'd want to roster him, but He's
If he was
he's
on the
very on
waiver
the bubble.
wire, would you put a claim in for him?
No,
Okay,
no, I wouldn't.
interesting. I have Kareem Hunt. I'm kind of in the same situation. I don't think he's droppable because there is a path to production here with the Chiefs running back room. Although we spent last episode, I am a fan of Pacheco and his value this year, but there, regardless, an injury there, there's a path to Kareem Hunt being relevant again. But I don't think the Chiefs want him to be relevant in their backfield because he just was a shell of what he was the first time, like no explosives whatsoever, not rushing the ball effectively. Sorry, efficiently. He was doing it effectively in short yard situations, but they were trying to use him in a lot of other situations that he didn't isn't that type of player anymore. So again, I don't think he is droppable. I just think he is the most droppable because of the deep bench that Sumner has here. So Tyler, let's just give us your L take here on why Joe Flacco is droppable.
This okay, you didn't ask me the question, but Joe Flacco's not droppable. He's just the most droppable, in my opinion. The reason that is I know, there's heavy speculation that Joe Flacco will be the starting quarterback in week one, but that hasn't been confirmed. Let's not act like crazier hasn't happened before with the Browns organization. There's a chance, Pickett starts, Gabriel starts. I won't say Sanders, but uh, no
Deshaun
one.
catching a stray somehow.
Uh, I mean, Joe Flacco, yeah, he's a grandpa, and we had an argument about, what is his best case scenario in games started this year, and I, I don't see how it's a full season. I understand if you don't want to drop a starting quarterback in Dynasty, but I just don't think he will be that long. I think at most like half the season, three-fourths of the season. And when he is starting quarterback, I highly doubt that Andrew's going to be wanting to start him, be starting Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence. Not to mention that he also has, a third and possibly fourth starting QB and Aaron Rodgers and Tyler Shuck. So just in the context of this team, where has a lot of depth at the quarterback position, Flacco in my mind was just is the most droppable just because of the redundancy there. Again, not saying he is droppable or he has no value, but just the most droppable. This is a team that legit has no droppable players.
Yeah,
So,
I we've talked about this extensively. I think this is just a horrible take here. Even I obviously he has not been announced as the starting quarterback, and I'm not necessarily saying that I think he is going to be the starting quarterback, but we're talking about a guy right here in a dynasty superflex league that if he was announced as the week one starter and was on the waiver wire, teams are blowing, over half their budget to get him. Like a starting quarterback in a dynasty superflex league is incredibly valuable. So I don't really care how many starting quarterbacks he has on his roster. That's still a more valuable asset than the Chiefs' third string running back or the third receiver on the Chiefs team, possibly fourth in targets. Like, I just don't see, even if his ceiling is not the full season, which I still disagree with, half a season or three-quarters of a season of an NFL starting quarterback on a team that's going to have to throw the ball because they're not very good, that to me is far from the most droppable piece on his bench. If he was announced as not the starter, yeah, he becomes droppable. But until we know he's not, I don't see there's any way you can say he's the most droppable player on his team.
but see, for me, it's like Joe Flacco, it's like there's floor there, no ceiling. You're getting, but there's, you know, with injuries in the Chiefs offense or who knows how the snap percentage is going to shake out. I think Hollywood and Kareem could both have uh decent seasons. Obviously Kareem showed last year. I know you said they don't want him to, what'd you say, they didn't want to feature him as much this year,
Well,
whatever.
yeah, he got like $1 million this year because nobody else wanted to sign him. The Chiefs brought him back because they had to. They didn't give him any real money.
I mean, I just think I'd rather not drop those guys because of the perceived ceiling is higher than Flacco there.
You're you're talking about a guy who might be the starter for his team versus a guy in Hunt who is definitely not the starter on his team at a less valuable position.
Talking about running back 31 last year.
Yeah, running back 31 who's not the starter on his own team now.
Who is the starter?
Isaiah Pacheco,
Are we sure about that?
1,000% yes. Kareem Hunt's fantasy relevance last year overinflated how good people think he was at actually playing football last year. He was fantasy relevant because the Chiefs had absolutely nobody else to get touches in the running back room, and they rectified that.
I think
And now he is, like I said, Pacheco is clearly ahead of him as in the order. Like Pacheco will be the guy who gets the most touches, period. I would argue that I think if Elijah Mitchell is healthy, he gets more run than Kareem Hunt does if everybody's healthy. And then obviously you have him and Carson Steele is not a threat, but like the again, you're talking about a guy who at his very best right now is a backup running back on the Chiefs over a guy who might be the starting
yeah,
quarterback of an NFL team in a super flex league.
I guess no one is going to be trading anything for Joe Flacco if he's starting week 1. Even if Andrew like tried his hardest to trade him, like no one is trading for 40-year-old
No.
Joe
No, I'm not
Flacco
saying
on the
somebody
Brown.
will trade for him.
So, but that's my point. It's like you're saying he has value. It's like okay, but Andrew already has 3, 4 starting QBs week 1,
That
right?
doesn't matter if he's a starting quarterback. You're not going to drop him just because you have other starting quarterbacks.
No, no. I'm not saying. Well, you might if you need someone on the waiver wire, but right now, yeah, you're not gonna. I'm saying if you needed to pick someone up off the waiver wire, Flacco's where I go because that's his deepest position, and no one's gonna give, a pick, or they might give some foul. That's the only thing is like they might give
You
some.
think someone will give something for Kareem Hunt?
Uh,
No,
Please don't say yes.
I mean everyone has players on the team that no one's gonna give shit for.
Well, yeah, no, but the drop this section is not talking about who would get you an asset in a trade. But Flacco would absolutely get picked up the second he was named the starter. Somebody would
Yeah,
blow a ton of fob on him. Kareem Hunt, barring Pacheco getting hurt before the season, there's no way that somebody would spend a bunch of fob to pick up Kareem Hunt.
but someone would pick up Kareem Hunt.
Maybe. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Also, Hollywood's the fourth option.
Yeah. Maybe third.
So
Maybe
who,
fourth.
who, who
I mean,
would
Rice,
you put him
Worthy,
over?
Kelsey.
I
Yeah,
think
I know.
one of
Would
the
you, when you said maybe third, was that over Kelsey?
Yeah,
No
maybe.
way.
No, I agree. I think in if you just drew out the pecking order, he'd be fourth, but he might be third, but he's not going to be higher than Worthy. He's not going to be higher than Rice. So his ceiling is the third option in their offense, which not many teams consistently support that many pass catchers, and not the Chiefs, the last 2 years at least, even though I
Yeah.
hope they'll be better.
And he's already proven to be ass.
Can I say one more thing and then I'm good to move on?
Is it going to be
Yes.
productive?
Yeah,
Okay, then sure.
zooming out, I think, with you guys having Hollywood and Kareem here, in all our team breakdowns, I think it kind of boils down to that. I think we all are in disagreement on what the Chiefs offense is going to be, and we disagree on what the unknown is there. Like I feel like the Chiefs offense is one of the most controversial offenses amongst us in our discussions.
I
Um, I
guess.
think I think Reed and I are like in lockstep with it, and you are on
Yeah,
the
I think I'm with
outside.
Cevan on this one.
Okay, that's fine.
Again, there's just no path to relevance that doesn't include an injury to Kareem Hunt, and Joe Flacco's path to relevance is just waiting 2 weeks and to see if he's the starter.
Yeah. I think it's perfectly fine to roster a handcuff running back.
But is he even the handcuff? They brought in Elijah Mitchell because Kareem Hunt was not very good last year. So you're talking about a potential maybe handcuff that isn't good at football versus a starting quarterback, potential starting quarterback if you just waited 3 weeks.
Yes.
Droppable question. Does Sumner have the deepest bench in the league?
Yes.
I think given all of the stuff we've just talked about, I think the answer is yes, because I don't think we spent this much time on the droppable section outside of AD Mitchell. So I think this answer is a clear yes. Like I debated putting nobody for this section because I think you could feasibly make a strong argument that everybody on his team would get picked up if they were dropped. So I would say yes to this, and I don't think
Th-
anybody really even comes close that we've covered so far.
I want to comment on this. I'm gonna draw this out and tell me if you guys agree at all.
Hmm.
So taking out the quarterbacks because we talked about them, just the running backs, tight ends, and receivers. I think we're all in agreement. This roster has the least amount of droppable players. Where I'm at with this question is out of all the players on the bench, how many are you comfortable actually putting into your lineup? Because for me, it's probably I'm gonna take Ayuk out of it because he's not gonna play, and he'd probably be in the starting lineup anyways. But to me, it would be Mooney and probably Jordan Mason. So it's a bunch of guys to me that would get picked up, yes, if they were dropped, but I am not excited to start any of them outside of like two players.
Well, I don't necessarily think having a deep bench means everyone on your bench is immediately playable. But like again, Rico Dowdle coming off a 1,000 yard season is now a primary handcuff in what we think is going to be a better offense this year. Like, yeah, you're not going to put him in your lineup right now, but he becomes like mid-range to high-end RB2 in the event of an injury. Obviously, we talked about, Jordan Mason, Ramondre Stevenson, 1Bs in their offense likely, but an injury to the 1A and they become, probably a top 12 running back. Alec
Yeah,
Pierce led the Colts in receiving last year. Like Dalton Schultz, although maybe droppable at the very least, he was a tight end one both the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years actually. So like there's a path there. So that's why I agree with what you're saying. Like it's not necessarily that his bench is loaded with guys that, yeah, let me just plug him in. But there's also a path to relevance, a very clear path to relevance for almost everybody on the bench.
see, and that's where it ties into like having such a wide range of outcomes
Hmm.
because literally you can talk yourself into every player, almost every player on the bench on
Hmm.
if this happens, then this will happen. And so,
Are you
I
saying
mean,
on
it just
his bench or on like any bench?
no, on his bench specifically, it
Hmm.
it like it just
Agreed.
fits into that narrative of in my eyes, you need so much to go right for it to work. But yeah, I mean, literally everybody on the bench. If Malik Neighbors gets hurt, Wandale's the wide receiver one.
Even if
If
Malik isn't hurt, Wandale had somewhat relevance last year.
exactly, but same with yeah Rico. If fucking Chuba gets hurt, blah blah blah.
No, please no.
Travion gets hurt. If
Andrew,
Jawan, yeah,
do you have any thoughts here on this question?
Drake London.
Yeah. I guess what I'll say is uh, there's definitely intent, right? And the reason we're seeing this question on the screen is kind of the way I've wanted to orchestrate this team, this roster. Optionality is important to me. So, you only you're not starting every single player on your roster every week. And I think the ability to mix and match, if I don't like a certain matchup for one of my guys that I typically start in a certain week, I want to feel comfortable being able to put them on the bench and have somebody in a better matchup that might be able to hit that week. So I think like thinking about these different scenarios, right? Okay, maybe players are going down. Maybe I don't like matchups. Um, you know, handcuff situation. I think Reed brought up Rico Dowdle, right? Like just having these different scenarios, or I guess different, like with every player on the roster at the end of the day, having that potential path on the table,
Hmm.
and having, I guess, like a higher probability of that path being realized. Because at the end of the day, right, like most players on most rosters in this league do have some sort of semblance of a probability of having a path. But I think just trying to optimize that for every guy on the roster and say like, all right, this might be a higher probability than another guy in terms of the path. Like we're really not counting on an injury for every player on my bench. There's actually like, some of these guys, Jordan Mason, like it might be not even an injury. It might be just like they actually do have a role. So I think trying to keep those things in mind when constructing this roster probably led to, some of these things you guys are noticing, right? Deep bench, more difficult roster decisions, things like that.
So it's good to hear this was an intentional approach because you caught some direct heat from Ian in the chat because he says you have a bunch of running back and wide receiver threes and fours and how that's a easy way to get fourth place or sixth place. Like, can't remember what he said, but again, it's coming from him where like half of his bench is droppable. So a clear difference in approach there. And again, it's good to hear you talk about like this was intentional. I want to have options and can make moves if I need.
Mhm.
And I think that's the joy of fantasy football is there's no right way to do something. And we'll see how it all plays out this year.
For sure. Like this certainly might not be the best approach. I think there's definitely some downsides, right? Like you look at this team, yeah, it's deep, but are there really any like super studs, right? Like McCaffrey, but obviously we've noted his, things like age, injury, whatnot. I don't have some of those top end names. Like that's very clear, but
Your
again, that's
your
just the way that this is constructed. So
your starting lineup can be like nearly all those green defenses you see in Sleeper, like showing the cushy defenses that rank like 30th and whatever versus running backs. Like it can be nearly all green with your team.
right, playing a little bit more matchups, right, instead of just looking for the players that are every week starts.
Hmm. Well, after that fun droppable section, we're headed here into the quarterback room. We've talked in depth about Baker, Trevor Lawrence, now Joe Flacco. Still has Aaron Rodgers in the room, newly signed Steelers quarterback. Tyler Shuck's got a few mentions as the rookie likely starter for the Saints. And then Dylan Gabriel was drafted to the Browns somehow. We'll start off with Cevan here. Do you have any thoughts on Rodgers, Shuck, or the room here as a whole?
Um, I like Baker, and that's really it. I mean, I'm a known non-Trevor Lawrence guy. I think he's like a mid QB2, high end QB2. And
Pretty
then
valuable.
Rodgers for 1 year. I don't like Gabriel. Flacco, we already talked. And then Shuck will be the wild card. You maybe have another starter there. He's 26 years old, so and he was notably really bad in college. So
Andrew, quick question for you on Tyler Shuck. Sorry, Savannah, not to cut you off, but I think it's relevant here.
Hmm.
Do you plan to have him on the taxi squad this year, or is that just a opening a roster spot for the time being?
I'd say it's more of the latter there, just kind of opening that roster spot. Um, I don't know what this role is gonna look like for him this year. I'm hoping he ends up being the starter and ends up contributing and being a guy that like ends up making his way in my starting lineup maybe a couple of weeks or more than that. But yeah, more so like the idea that I drafted him with the hope that that's going to be the case, but for the time being, at least just opening up that roster spot, and then
Hmm.
if that optimal scenario comes around where he's worth that spot, I'm more than willing to just kind of give up that force taxi spot and
Hmm.
and slide him into the regular roster.
That's fair. Sorry, Savannah, didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have anything else to say?
and then just overall, no rushing upside at all in the room, which I think we can all agree is the key to quarterback success in fantasy most of the time. The room's solid though, starter wise. I think it's kind of a low floor with I mean I see a path where Lawrence is top 12 and you have two top 12 quarterbacks. I just think it's more of a lower f floor, but you have a lot of names, which sometimes is beneficial.
Sorry, did you mean lower floor or lower ceiling?
Both.
Okay, just a hater, it sounds like. Andrew, kind of obviously you gave your Shuck thoughts here. What are your thoughts on the room overall here?
Yeah, besides Chuck, um, I think it's fine. I think Cevan brings up a good point, right? Low floor is definitely something that um, I think a lot of people might say about this. I see it as Baker, right? Like very solid option there, even though I discussed him as potentially being overrated. But then, hey, if Trevor Lawrence, Cevan gives me a top 12 season this year, that's optimal scenario in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Seeing what we saw last year, like I mean, granted, he missed a lot of the year, but I'm just hoping that something like that would happen, or otherwise, I've got options. Right, if I don't feel great about Lawrence and the ability for him to be an every week starter, I've got a couple other starting quarterback options. Well, one for sure, and Aaron Rodgers. That's I might be able to play on matchups if I don't like a matchup for Lawrence. So two options there at that super flex spot, and then potentially a third if Joe Flacco ends up being the starting quarterback for Cleveland. That's really the way I'm seeing it. And then, yep, talked about Chuck. Dylan Gabriel really kind of a lottery ticket there. More so just banking on the uncertainty of that Cleveland quarterback room, like, being the pick above Shador, potentially having some, um, I guess, merit there. But, Flacco's old. Kenny Pickett, like, what are we looking at there? Maybe Dylan Gabriel gets a shot this year and maybe he turns out, you know, to be that lottery ticket that hits. Unlikely, but more so just how I'm viewing him there.
Hmm. Yeah, very fair. Tyler, thoughts on the room?
think it's generally underrated amongst the league. I think it is maybe the biggest strength for his team. I'm kind of undecided on that, but
Hmm.
generally I like it.
Yeah, I did disagree with what Savan said. I think it's a high floor,
Yeah.
but they're definitely a low ceiling. Like when you're looking at just the complete lack of rushing upside, I don't know where you're getting like top five seasons out of these guys. Like obviously Baker was that last year, but I stated my concern for how his repeatability is there. Like I just don't see where the potential for that comes from. But I like again having up to potentially five guys that can be starting games for you. Like to me, that's a really high floor because you can, like you said, play matchups, play the hot hand, and you're always going to have somebody who is starting at quarterback to play in your super flex. Like even if you do have to start someone like Darnell Mooney in your super flex, he's probably not going to drop 30 every week like he did for Cevan last year. So like having a quarterback that you know is going to be playing in that super flex is important. So I think the floor here is pretty high. I just agree that the ceiling might be lower than other groups that maybe have a lower floor.
Yeah, I'm just lower on Trevor, which
Hmm.
is known.
Yeah,
So that checks out.
very much so. Onto the running backs here. Again, talked in depth about a number of just about everybody of note here with Kamara, Brian Robinson, McCaffrey, Javante, Jordan. Okay, we've talked about everybody except Rico Dowdle here in the room. And I'll
Reed, would you like to
say,
spend a little time on Rico Dowdle
yeah,
since
I
we've
will.
covered the rest?
Yeah, I like Rico Dowdle because I have Chuba Hubbard. If I didn't have Chuba Hubbard, I don't think that Rico Dowdle has that much value. He was brought in on deal, obviously coming off a 1,000 yard season with the Cowboys, which is basically the only reason that everybody's kind of in on Javante is because of what Rico Dowdle did last year. But they did not give him enough money to make me worry that they're going to take real work away from Chuba Hubbard, who also got an extension last year. So overall, a very valuable piece to have on the bench because if Chuba does go down, I think it's clear he's the next up in the rotation. No disrespect to Trevor Etienne, but Dowdle would be the guy who gets the bulk of the work. So again, a very rosterable piece with a clear path to upside. And I think that when you look at the room here, like this is unbelievably deep room, and it still has the ceiling because again, we're talking about Kamara, who was a top five running back last year, and commonly throughout his career a top five running back, and McCaffrey, who's the best running back in the game, fantasy game when he's healthy, factually. So an incredibly high floor, but also one of the highest ceilings in the league. So, Andrew, do you have a different analysis there on your running back room here?
Nothing too different. Yeah, definitely leaning on those top two names. Well, not literally top two, more so just talk about Kamara and
Hmm.
McCaffrey. Uh, my concern here is like I actually probably don't view the floor as being that high. I think that with the age of Kamara and McCaffrey, if injuries happen to one or both of those, I get really worried about this running back room. But yep, leaning on those two names, and then just having a mix of guys that I think if one or two of them can prove to be capable options for this season and can provide solid seasons, maybe like a top 30 season or two out of again one to two of these guys. That's really the hope there is that I can find serviceable options. And like to your point,
Hmm.
we talked about what that might look like for a few of these guys, so at least the fact that that's on the table is kind of what I wanted. And in the event that Kamara and McCaffrey aren't well, in the event that something happens to them, or just as a supplement, right? We've got two flex spots and a super flex, so needing more than just two running backs, and
Hmm.
hoping that we can we can get something there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you make a good point, but I also think if any team in the league had their top two running backs get hurt, they're going to be in trouble. I guess my point
Sure.
was you are more equipped to replace those two than most other teams in the league are. With obviously Brian Robinson as an NFL starter, Javonte Williams as an NFL starter, Mason with potentially in a 1B role, Ramondre Stevenson potentially in a 1B role. Like if your top two running backs got hurt, you're at least putting viable options in after them. I cannot say the same for my roster specifically, and I know there's a number of teams where maybe the starters are great, but if they get hurt, they're in trouble. You would be in less trouble than other teams, was I guess kind of my point with the floor.
Sure, that's fair.
Tyler, thoughts on the running back room?
I don't have too much else to add from what you guys have said.
Savan, any thoughts on the room?
Yeah. So I'm super torn here. I've been thinking this whole time, but uh personally I love like a hero RB build, and so I view Kamara as that. And then you add that you do have Christian McCaffrey, who has just been all over the place the last 3 or 4 years. When he's on the field, he's a top three back. Is he going to be on the field? Was there was just a beat report saying that um he's healthy, feeling healthy and explosive. I think that was this morning. So we'll see. I mean, if you're starting Kamara and McCaffrey all season, that's perfect. Brian Robinson, I think, is a perfect RB3 option.
Hmm.
Uh, you know what you're going to get every time you start him. You're going to get that 8 points if he doesn't score, and then all the way up to 15. So I mean, he's a perfect RB3. I kind of view him in like the the Najee category, if you will. Um, but then where I personally think it ties in to the whole wide range of outcomes is I could see at any point there you having up to seven starting running backs. And then on the other side of that, I can see where McCaffrey has the same situation as last year, and the 1B roles don't work out, or there's injuries, and you're left with Kamara, who's 30, and Brian Robinson, who's going to get you about 10 points. So I think I think I would call this the strength of the team. Um, very high ceiling, potential to overtake Deshaun, in my opinion, as far as top two, with the PPR volume you're going to get from Kamara McCaffrey. But unfortunately, I also see the world where it all falls apart.
You had an interesting comment there. You said you could see a situation where he has up to seven starting running backs, but we're
Oh, there's eight
listing,
here.
yeah. So who's the one who doesn't get in there?
Kareem.
Oh, so
Kareem
he's
is
probably
he's
droppable
toast. He's toast.
if he has no path to production and he's old. He
Reed's not going to let
probably,
this one go.
yeah, probably is droppable if I had to bet.
I would say so, yes.
Okay, sorry, Tyler, you're wrong. Running backs. On to a question here. Is there a better top two running back duo in the league? And essentially, what we're guessing here is would you take his top two in Kamara and McCaffrey, or Deshaun's, any combination of Deshaun's top two of Saquon Barkley, Devon Achane, or Ashton Genty?
Is is it as is, or are the health impacts affected?
Uh,
Because if it's
let's
as
just say
is,
all
I'm
healthy.
okay. That actually does make a
If you
difference.
guaranteed 17 games of production from all running backs, which duo would you rather take? And you can take any of the two of Deshaun's three.
That's so tough because here, I'll go first. I think I would take I think I would take McCaffrey over everybody, but I would take Barkley, Achan, and Genty over Kamara. So that does not get an answer, does it?
It's cop out, fence sitting.
I know. So okay, so I think I would take Barkley. Who would I want? Achan? I think I would take Barkley and Achan against and leave Genty out of it. Ah, fuck.
We will circle back to you shortly. Tyler, we'll go to you. What do you think? Is this the top two running back duo in the league?
I give the edge to Barkley and Achane personally.
Okay. Andrew, your thoughts?
um, yeah, that's tough. I think it's tough to not go with Deshaun here. I'd probably honestly give him the upper hand.
Hmm.
But I think it's close, you know. And
Yeah,
honestly, the fact that this is a conversation, a question, like it's where I'm happy at with my team.
yeah. Cevan,
Respect.
circling back to you.
Reed, you go.
Okay. I will go against the grain here, and I will take Andrew's team here. And very briefly, obviously, we're again, as we said, we're guaranteeing 17 games of production. So that essentially wipes out the injury risk for McCaffrey, but it also, I think, is an underrated injury risk for Saquon, we talked about in his episode. And if they're
And
both
Achan.
healthy, and Achan, and if we're doing at their best, like if we knew we were getting healthy players, then I think McCaffrey's the 102 in redraft behind probably Jamar. And you could make the argument for 101. So for me, I think you're getting an advantage there. And the floor that Kamara presents is just so underrated. And while he provides like the same ceiling, like again, I think we all would probably take, at least for this year, Achan over Ashton Genty in this scenario. And again, we're talking about Kamara, who's never finished that outside of an RB1, and at the same time has also finished in the top five on multiple occasions. So, like, we're talking about a high floor and a high ceiling. We've seen Achan as kind of an elite runner, but not much receiving work and efficiency. But then the
That's
last,
that's not right. He does get a lot of receiving work.
and then we've also seen Achan in a role where he gets a lot of volume, both running and receiving, but the efficiency dipped. So we've seen both versions of him, and that's a very high floor for him. But I think for me, the Saquon is just a little bit behind McCaffrey, and I think you could argue that Kamara is just as valuable in a 1 year setting as Achan. So I would give the slight edge to Andrew here, but would not fight the other side.
Yeah, I think you just pick your flavor. This is right there with each other. If everybody's playing 17 games, I think I would lean Sumner's side. If the question were to be as is,
Hmm.
then I think I lean Deshaun's side.
Very fair. Okay. To another
But hold on,
very,
Savon. You're saying I get the advantage in 17 games fully healthy, or
Yeah,
like
if you're
all things
guaranteeing
considered?
everybody's gonna play, then yeah, I give you the edge. But just
I
based
got you.
on what we know right now, I would give it to Deshaun.
mhm.
Gotcha. Maybe
Okay.
there.
Off one running back room onto another deep room on his team, the wide receivers. We've talked about Calvin Ridley and Travis Hunter both, and then Hollywood Brown, but we have not talked about a couple of big names in this room. Tyreek Hill being the main one, was drafted above ADP in the inaugural draft as a 30-year-old, drafted him at the 11th pick in the first round, notably ahead of Jamar Chase, which I was very thankful for. And then also talking about the Colts' leading receiver last year, Alec Pierce, Brandon Ayuk coming off a knee blowout, but also a huge contract extension. Darnell Mooney coming off a very successful first season with the Falcons. And then Jalen Noel, probably a taxi squad guy for Andrew this year. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, one of the most unexciting yet somehow relevant players in fantasy football. So we're going to start with Andrew here. What are your thoughts on the room? Make sure you touch on Tyreek here and potentially what you expect from the room as a whole.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe not as I guess excited about this room as I am my running backs. Like I think running backs just being a bit bigger strength. But what I see here is hopefully being able to lean on Tyreek Hill as that, you know, every week, hopefully returns to something we've seen in previous years. Obviously, last year was very underwhelming, but wide receiver two, number two in back-to-back years between 23, 2022. Obviously, that's now 2 and 3 years ago, respectively. Age is a factor here with him, but really hoping that he kind of gets back to somewhat higher levels than what we saw last year. But again, just seeing a bunch of options here, bunch of solid players, guys that I really look top to bottom and could see a way for them to producing on this team. Let's see, what else do I want to know here? Yeah, I think like Darnell Mooney. What you think about him? Like, I mean, he was top 30 almost wide receiver last year. And I don't know if a lot's changed as far as like his role on that team or anybody really jumping ahead of him. Brandon Ayuk, obviously the injury. Um, we'll see where that goes. But if he's healthy, and the trade of Debo Samuel this offseason, maybe he's got a solid role and can return to production there. So yeah, see a lot of options. Hoping Tyreek Hill can kind of lead this group, but I think it's pretty solid and feel like
Hmm.
every week there might be you know spots I can fill that I feel good about, right? Whether it be matchup based or hot hand or whatnot.
Hmm. Yeah, very fair. Tyler, your thoughts?
This is where I start to worry a little bit about Andrew's team, and I think there's possibly the most amount of question marks in this room with Tyreek, Ayuk, and Mooney personally. So honestly, Travis Hunter you could throw in there as well, but that's a little bit different given he's a rookie and everything. So I I don't know. I remain a bit skeptical about this room overall. Um, just voicing some of the same concerns. So I I don't know. this is the scariest part of the team for me without going into too in depth with each player.
Mm-hmm. Cevan, are you skeptical as well, or do you feel more comfortable with the room?
Uh, the former. I think Tyreek Hill makes or breaks this receiver room as a whole because outside of him, I don't personally view Ridley, Travis, or Mooney. Uh, I think they're all wide receiver twos, maybe lower end wide receiver twos, Travis being a question mark. But to me, if Tyreek Hill can't get back to his top 10 self, then you're kind of just running out a bunch of wide receiver twos and threes with question marks. And so, yeah, I do want to shout out Wandale, though. He was fifth in the NFL in targets while having the target leader on his team. And so he is someone I think I'm cool with throwing out, considering the Giants might go 0 and 17, are going to have to throw
Wow.
600 times. Um, Wandale is sneaky for PPR purposes. Just chuck him in the lineup and get 6 or 7 targets. But yeah, I think Tyreek Hill has to return back to form, which I'm not sure. I don't know. That whole Dolphins situation is sketchy. But
Feels like the Dolphins could either fall apart in the first couple of weeks and like, okay, it's
yeah,
over, or they look like themselves, and then Tyreek
it's a
goes back to himself, Waddle smashes again, Achane's valuable. Like it could go either way, and nobody would
Waller.
really be that surprised. No, not Darren Waller. So we're talking about Wandale Robinson here, a guy who had a shit ton of targets last year and didn't do anything with them. And we want that
Correct.
quarterback to start over Anthony Richardson this year, and suddenly that makes people excited about the Colts pass catchers. Come on,
Okay.
people.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Wandale had 5 less targets than Malik Neighbors.
Well, Malik
And
Neighbors also missed 2 games, to be fair.
I know, dude. I
No,
know
no,
this
no,
isn't a
no,
Malik
no,
Neighbors episode,
no, no
but if
glazing
he didn't
neighbors.
miss two
Oh my
games, he
God.
might have had 200
If you
targets as
take
a
out all
rookie.
the games he missed
I
almost
know,
no games.
but the crazy thing is Brock Bowers has the rookie reception record at 111. Neighbors, I believe, had 107. He would have had fucking 125 receptions as a rookie, and I would have, oh,
Can we not do this?
Yeah,
it
I
would have
don't know
been.
why. I was making it about myself, and then Savan decided to try to make it about himself, and this is
Well,
supposed
you
to be
were
about
making it
Andrew.
seem like that Wandale was bad and he had 170
No,
targets,
I was
and
trying
that's
to make
Daniel
fun of
Jones'
Daniel
fault.
Jones
Yeah,
because
but
he's
then,
getting all these shit targets, and now everyone's excited about Colts pass catchers as if Daniel Jones
Mm.
is the messiah that's going to
yes,
unlock their offense.
but what if Josh Downs is Malik Neighbors?
Then that's exactly what I expect him to be. So we're good.
Okay, okay. So then who's the Wandale of the Colts?
Okay,
Michael Pittman?
moving on to tight ends here. Tyler, thank you for trying not to make it about yourself, unlike Savannah and I. Tight
Did
ends.
Tyler get to have his input on the wide receivers?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he
Yeah.
did. It was just very
Okay.
uninspiring from
Okay.
him. Tight ends. We've talked about Notre Dame 2 sports star Cole Kmet. We've talked about Dalton Schultz. Have mentioned Travis Kelsey, but not because we were talking about Travis Kelsey. And then Elijah Arroyo, who you traded up for in the rookie draft. So, Andrew, we'll start with you. Kind of a weird room, but potentially solid. What are your thoughts? And
Travis
is
Kelsey
is
farewell
Cole
tour.
Kmet the presumed starter, or is he just chilling in your starting lineup for fun?
I physically can't move that
Oh yeah,
around
because
because of my
you're
roster
out of route.
crunch.
Yep,
So,
we're good.
yep. What is there right now is not necessarily reflective of how I see week one going. But yeah, what I gotta say is Travis Kelsey a farewell tour. Banking on you brought him in this year with the idea that I'm not sure I love any of my other options. Cole Kmet, to Savan's point, potentially still a role there, could be a sleeper, but and I know Travis Kelsey is not nearly what he has been and was, but the chance that he does throw some good games there and can have a solid, presumably last season in the league. Um, I don't know. I've seen crazier things in the NFL or sports where, his last year, despite his age, maybe he goes and balls out, and I feel happy about that. But at least, there's a couple other options there, right? Cole
Hmm.
Kmet, and then Dalton Schultz too. I mean, I talked about how underwhelming his season is, potentially being a droppable candidate, but we have seen that before. And again, the new system there in Houston. Potentially, he has the ability to come back and put up at least like a a solid season, right? I'm not expecting
Hmm.
anything too fancy from him, but we saw 23, 2022 tight end seasons of 10 and 11 respectively. So potential there that he could be a solid option. Really, no one guy I can feel comfortable in leaning on. No, obviously Brock Bowers or any of your big names there, but you know, potentially being able to get some solid weeks and contributions from the
Hmm.
three guys, and then Elijah Arroyo. Truthfully, not really expecting much, but the thinking about the draft capital with him on the Seahawks and potentially, if he ends up becoming something, I feel really great about that value being a huge impact on the team, especially at a position where I could certainly use it. So,
Hmm.
in the case that lottery ticket hits, that would be, a huge plus.
For sure. Tyler, your thoughts on the room overall?
Yeah, I want to talk about Kelsey real quick. This makes me curious if, let's say, Kelsey's balling out, but maybe you fall a bit out of contention, Andrew. I'm curious, like what you could fetch for a trade return in Kelsey, where everyone's thinking this is his last year, but maybe someone like Cevan or Reed needs a tight end
Reed.
pretty desperately
I
going into
definitely
the
want to start him
playoffs.
and Rasheed together. That makes a lot of sense.
Fair,
Okay,
fair, fair.
just an example, but I'm just curious about I'm curious as what maybe he could get in a midseason trade package if he's really balling out. So I think he could be an interesting trade piece
Are you
on your
implying
team.
that Andrew is going to fall out of contention?
No, no, I'm just saying if that were to happen or anything. I mean, like I traded uh, a second rounder for D Hop last year, so if like Kelsey could get something like that or better.
What
Hmm.
what was the trade Sumner for Kelsey?
It was a second,
It was
wasn't
a
it?
second as well. Yep.
What year? Next
Oh
year?
boy.
It was
I think it was my
Good
27.
question.
Oh, so like a high second then for Kelsey. I mean, honestly, that's a
2026.
okay.
high 2026 second. That's a solid going rate. But yeah, I mean, for
Uh,
me, just I this room to me is the weakest. I think Cole Kmet's more likely to be on the waiver wire at the end of the year than a startable player. Dalton Schultz is fine, I guess. I agree. I don't really have any expectations for Arroyo this year. And Kelsey, I've noted in the past, like it seems much more of a coasting aspect of him, not coasting, but an intentional effort to keep him fresh for later in the season. So I just don't think that he's going to be someone. Again, he was tight end 5 last year, total points, tight end 7 points per game, but that was almost exclusively because Rasheed got hurt. If you look at his involvement the first 3 weeks, when Rasheed was there and the focal point of the offense, he was not doing much. And I think that's what the Chiefs want. They do not want to use him like he has gotten used. And then come the back end of the season, especially the playoffs, he's a lot fresher. So I'm worried for this room. It's scary for me to see the Travis Kelce be the presumed starter because I am worried for what his output's going to be this year. But clearly some upside with Travis Kelce being himself, and then Dalton Schultz getting more involved with a better offense. And I guess if the Bears are supporting 19 pass catchers this year, Cole Kmet can be something. So overall, a little scary for me, but
I
solid
think if
overall.
the thing is, I think if you're gonna have Kelsey, this is a perfectly fine, good room to assemble around. Like if Kelsey isn't producing or he's injured or whatever, it's not like Kmet or Schultz can't start or whatever. Like he does have like Kmet and Schultz can
Hmm.
start games if they need to.
I guess.
yeah, like last year, if you go back to my tight end run, both of them would have been picked up at some point last year. But for me, the one interesting thing about Travis is he's 98 receptions away from breaking the all-time tight end record. So there is that.
If he
If
gets
he,
98 receptions or more this year, I will
I'm just saying there is that.
be
What,
wild.
Reed? What
He
will you
is,
do?
You don't want to know what I would do.
he is within a
I really
season.
don't.
He's within a season's work away. So there is that.
He
But yeah,
had 97 last year. Why is
yeah.
98 so crazy?
Because I told you he only did that because Rasheed got hurt, and then they had to use him more than they wanted to. Look at what he did the first 3 weeks. He was minimally involved compared to what he had been in the past. His usage only ticked up once Rasheed got hurt because they both are best, or at least Kelsey was at his best in the same areas that Rasheed wins in that 15 to 10 yards or less range, and then making people miss and gaining extra yards. That he's at least definitely not anymore. He's not a vertical threat given he's lost the athleticism that once made him really, really special. Like he's just not going to be the focal point of their offense. And he didn't hit that even when, again, look who else they had to throw the ball to last year. For most of the year, it was just him and Xavier Worthy, and Xavier Worthy really didn't come into his own until the second half of the year. Like they were using him out of pure necessity.
Okay.
You don't think, given the Chiefs, what they kind of showed last year, where there's that element of coasting, element of just trying different things, that
Mm-hmm.
even though it might not make the most sense based on their options, their weapons, that out of respect to Travis Kelce and his career, they might force feed him a little bit to try and get him to that 98 mark
I don't
throughout the
think
regular season
so.
because they know they're that good.
Mm-hmm.
They can try different things. They can maybe take a hit of value in order to get their guy the ball
Yeah.
to get him to that career mark.
I think it's a very valid point, but at the same time, I also don't think Travis Kelce wants to get hit that many times just to try to hit the mark. He's already got 3 Super Bowls, probably 4 after this year to go out on get into the sunset off the Super Bowl win. So like, I see the point, but I also don't think that's who Travis is anymore. So would it is it in the range of outcomes? Absolutely. Would it shock me if he had that much involvement? Definitely. So
Okay, getting back to me. Elijah Arroyo, I think, is interesting based on real life draft capital. They also had AJ Barner come in last year, who, I mean, for a rookie backup tight end, he was somewhat intriguing. And so they also extended or re-signed Noah Fant. And so they kind of had a deep tight end room. So interesting. I think he's definitely a taxi candidate, and it's going to be a year or two away for that, but he is an intriguing prospect. And then Dalton Schultz, technically he's the starter there. He's just he's so slow. Like when Tyler talks about Braylon Allen being slow, Dalton Schultz is slow. Uh, but he starts and he plays. And then Cole Kmet, almost as bad of a take as Tyler's take saying, who do you say was gonna somebody was gonna be on the waiver at the end of the season?
I said that
I
about
for,
Debo for Cam Thorne's episode.
no, Tyler said it about
Oh, Jaden
somebody.
Reed.
Yes, that's on the same par
Wow.
because
That's an
Kmet still
L.
has he still has 4 years under contract. He's in the prime age for tight ends. Um, and personally, I think DJ will be off the team next year before Cole. Uh,
No, I'm not saying Cole won't be on the Bears. I'm saying he won't be
no,
on a
I know.
fantasy team.
I understand. And so when DJ gets traded next year and they really dive into your Luther, I know you like Luther.
I'm
So
a
when they
fan.
really dive into Luther, Colston, and Rome.
So when they
Cole,
trade DJ Moore and Cole Kmet goes up to the number 4 target in the offense, he's cooking.
okay, so when Cole has more targets than Colson and Luther this year, what are we going to say?
I wouldn't be surprised if he had more than Luther because I don't really know what to expect, but it would very much surprise me if he had more than Colston, as per our bet.
Okay, well, only time will tell. He won't be. He'll be rosterable. I mean, if you look at
Okay.
the tight ends that are on waivers right now, I mean, you're talking about like Tommy Tremble,
Yep. Starting
like
tight end for an NFL team over Cole Kmet, who's not.
oh, Jatavion's not the starter.
Sorry, that's actually a great comparison because I feel like Cole Kmet's going to be in the Tommy Trumbull role of, you know what, you go out there and block, buddy, and we'll throw the ball to Colston. Tommy Trumbull goes out there to block so they can throw the ball to Jatavian.
Cole has never in his 5 year career had as low as receptions as Tommy Tremble's career high, which
Cole
is
Kmet's never
32.
had the competition that he has at the tight end position from a top 10 pick until now.
Is Cole Kmet a blocking tight end though?
He literally plays every snap and does everything because they have, except for his rookie year when they had Jimmy Graham. But that's we're getting way off topic now.
So his rookie year when they had Jimmy Graham, did he primarily function in a blocking role when they had a pass catcher at the tight end position that was better than him?
He was playing in the hardest position outside of quarterback in football to
Okay, so he was
learn
playing in
as
a
a rookie.
blocking role when they had a better receiving tight end. That makes sense.
And guess what? He's even as the backup tight end, he still had more career receptions than Tommy Tremble. So
Position groups. Which position group is the strongest for Sumner's team? And
running
I'll
back.
start, yeah, so I'll start here because I said it. I think his running back room is very good, but I think you could feasibly make an argument for any of them. I think, maybe. Do you guys anybody have a different opinion from running back?
I
No.
said I said
It-
quarterback.
Interesting. Andrew, your thoughts?
I'm with you guys on running back. I think that'd be my vote there.
Savan, what'd you have?
running back definitely. It's got the highest ceiling, and I think we came to a consensus uh on quarterbacks that it's got a lower, at least comparative to the running backs, relative to the running backs. The running backs have a higher ceiling, and so I think
Hmm.
that is the
I'd agree.
reason.
I'd agree. So on to the hot takes heading now. We're starting with Andrew. Very controversial one he has here. He's going to perform a season sweep of the Monkas.
Take out the trash.
We have a two-game series here this week or this year because Savan and Andrew play in week 2 and then again in week 13, I believe that would come out to. And then potentially even again in the playoffs if they meet a third time. Andrew, it's pretty hot take talking about the reigning champion. What do you got?
Yeah. I mean we've talked about it all episode. There's definitely a range of outcomes for my team. This team could be good, could have playoff aspirations, or it could be really bad. But even if it's a season like a 7-7 season, I think there's just something in the narrative where two of those wins, despite a middling year, are gonna come against Monkas. And I think that's just something that I can see happening. And I think that's my hot take for the year.
I mean, we know week 13, Savon's going to be probably on the playoff bubble at that point. We know he doesn't want to see your team coming. So, to be fair, it would probably be Savon's nightmare scenario as well.
I think so too. I think
Tyler,
that's the
Could
way I'm seeing it.
your
could
thoughts on the season sweep
could
prediction?
you imagine how sweet it would be for the entire league if Andrew season swept the Monkas and Schrader did? That would be cinema.
That would be quite the turn of events because then at that point, Savon needs to win a minimum of three, or sorry, he needs to win it. He can only lose 3 more games the rest of the year to have a chance at the playoffs. So, Savan, you're pretty quiet. What are your thoughts on the clearly confrontational take here from Andrew?
Yeah, so the way I'm thinking about it, if we're matching up week 2 and week 13,
Hmm.
obviously the guys in your lineup now you're going to have in week 2, but kind of ties into my hot take. I think by week 13, you're not going to have those guys in your lineup. And let's just transition right into my hot take.
Cole Kmet will finish with more
Whoa.
fantasy points than Dalton Schultz.
I Okay, so I updated this.
Here,
It's not what it
I'll try to
was.
back out and then go back in and see if it
I
works.
feel like this is the most like irrelevant hot
There
take
we
that
go. We
one could
got it.
have.
Yeah, it was irrelevant. Now here's the new one. Savan says
There
that
we go.
Sumner will finally be a seller and trade out his aged guys, such as guys we've talked about, and enters a full rebuild.
Yeah, so that's actually perfect. I didn't see your hot take until then. But it ties in right to mine. Yeah, week 13. I don't think you're gonna have these guys. I think by the trade deadline's week 12, so right before you play me, you'll be like maybe 2-10,
Oh boy,
maybe
Jeez.
maybe
things
one
are
and
getting personal
11.
now.
Um, with your lone win coming against Reed probably because
That's fair.
it's belt to ass week 2. Um, yeah, so I don't know how you're gonna be able to beat me without
What about a
these
season
players.
sweep after he sells and he still beats you in week 13?
Now
How would that
now
feel?
we'll now we'll have problems.
I feel like it's just
If
adding to the narrative. If I don't have any of my players and I
Yeah,
still complete the season sweep, it seems even more cinematic to
yeah,
Tyler's point.
you,
an
yeah,
even hotter take then.
you can't you can't get the season sweep unless you take week 2. So it's gonna have to start there.
One game
Um,
at a time.
one game at a time. I've already I got a bus Schrader week 1,
Oh
and then
boy.
it's on to Sumner It might be back shots week 2. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow. This has
So
escalated
Wow.
quickly. Cevan, as always, fulfilling his role as the league villain. He plays the role well. On to my hot take here. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter are a top three scoring stack in the entire league this year.
interesting.
Interesting indeed. Obviously, there are some very clear stack options that are very sexy between Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase.
Kyler
McCarthy,
Murray, Trey
Jettas.
McBride.
Okay, yeah, everyone just name a bunch of people that are on your teams. We get it. Dak Prescott, Jake Ferguson. Yeah, we get it. Okay. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter ends up being a little roller coastery the first couple weeks of the year, but once they see the value he can provide and the stuff that Liam Cohen's going to do for him, that ends up being a fantastic connection. Brian Thomas, maybe Brian Thomas is in the top three as well with Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. But on the
Yeah,
end of the
this is
day, Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence, top three scoring stack in the league for
this
quarterback and pass catcher.
this is bad because Trevor and BTJ are gonna be ahead.
Maybe they
Uh,
are.
Joe and Jamar, easy.
Maybe.
Dak and CD, easy.
Hard, maybe.
Kyler and McBride, easy.
Maybe if he catches
Mahomes
some
Mahomes and
and
touchdowns.
Rice, easy.
Maybe if he catches some touchdowns. I don't know.
Goff and Amon Ra, easy.
Maybe.
JJ and Jettas, easy.
JJ McCarthy has not played a snap in the NFL.
Correct, but he has the best wide receiver in all of football.
Very true.
So
Ah,
this is not
Spice
possible.
level high.
Yeah,
ah.
this is probably the least odds in
Really?
my opinion.
No. I like this. I think there's like this is just right for me. Like it's like sure, is it probably not going to happen? Yeah, but like could you squint and see a world where this happens? Definitely. So this is my cup of tea. I like this one.
Savon, what's more likely, this happening or Matthew Stafford and JJ McCarthy both being top seven scoring quarterbacks as per last week?
Uh, yeah, I'll take the quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's an L from you right there.
Oh
Andrew,
yeah,
your
Stafford
thoughts?
and Puka.
I like this a lot. Yeah, given all the stacks in the league, it's definitely a spicy take. I think we kind of overlooked the fact that Savan just said that this has lower odds than me sweeping him, which in a way is kind of him admitting that
It's going to happen.
Yeah,
there's a
it's
chance,
you have a
even though
50-50
he just
chance
told
to
us there wasn't a chance.
actually. What are the odds on winning two? Is it like 33%?
What's 50 times zero point 0.5 times zero point 0.5 is 0.25, is winning two games.
25% chance. Yeah.
Yep.
So
If it's
yeah,
a
this
50-50,
is there's no way this is a 25% chance take.
this might be a 30% chance.
They're not even going to be the best stack on their own team.
That's why it's top three. There's plenty of room for Brian Thomas ahead of him.
Well, then there's no room for Jamar.
There's three, so there is.
What about Fields and Wilson? I'll take
Tyler's
that.
hot take. This is the most
That-
convoluted take we've ever had here. In Andrew's best starting lineup, the average positional finish is at least half of the average team age. What a wild take here. Tyler, walk us through the math
Okay.
here.
Okay. So this is just follow me. Okay. So there's 9 starting positions here. You have QB, running backs, receivers, uh, flex, super flex, right? Um, so I looked at Andrew's team right now. I swapped out Brian Robinson for Darnell Mooney and Kelsey for Cole Kmet. And if you add all their ages together, it's 262.7, right? Divide by that by 9, you have 29 point decimal number, right? 29.18. And if you divide that by 2 for the half, you get about 14 and a half. So let's just more or less, I'm saying the average positional finish of his best starting lineup is at least 14 and a half or better. That's if you just want to put the numbers up to it. And it's obviously also possible that the best starting lineup isn't what I used the numbers to project it to be. So I just wanted to come up with a take that related Andrew's team age, which is obviously a big theme in this breakdown, to the positional finish and give it a positive spin there. So I do think though that it's definitely possible to have his average positional finish be 14 or better. I mean, with McCaffrey there, Lawrence and Baker can both have QB 14 seasons are better. Um, so I think
Mooney,
this, what's that?
Mooney can.
Kenny?
Uh, I don't know. But anyways, I mean it's an average, so some guys might be slightly outside of that, like Ridley or Hunter or whatever. So I can do the math at the end of the season if we want to see if this checks out. I don't know in my head, like there's maybe this isn't hot at all if you say like
I have no idea how to rate the spice on this one.
right, me neither, me neither. The average, like if I were to put a number to it right now, it's basically the average positional finish is 14 and a half or better.
Having a really hard time seeing the relevance of the team age within
Yeah,
this
it's going to be
take.
like mostly the
Like
same for
yeah,
everybody.
14 and a half is basically, I mean, not quite, but pretty much like, well,
But
all right, I take that back. Never mind. That was going to be dumb.
I don't think you could do it with every team because you'd have some teams like the average positional finish would be like top 10 or better.
Like
I
Like
don't think
that
the
the
average starting lineup age for anybody is 20 years old, unless they're starting 9 Braylon Allens.
fair
Savan,
enough.
as a noted fan of math, what are your thoughts on this one?
um I mean I understand it. Is you're basically just saying his team's old and that gives
That's what
him
Savan took away from this.
That's the
and that
hot
gives
take.
him a better chance for this to actually happen because his average finish would be the highest in the league. And while the number is 14, I mean,
But
I think it checks out because the quarterbacks around 14, fine. Kelsey around 14, fine. Both running backs, fine. And then having the receivers be behind it is what would average it around 14. So it makes sense to me, but yeah, basically he's just saying your team's old as dirt.
Tyler, you have
maybe
outdone yourself this week.
maybe this is a flop. But I think you can't do it with the same with other teams because I think like if you're talking about averages, like each whole number matters. Like 13 versus 14 in averages is relevant, something like that. Whereas like a younger team would have to have that higher average positional finish. But it might be a flop. I don't know.
I guess we'll see at the end of the year, and you can do the math on it. Rolling into season predictions here, Savan, noted hater of Andrew's team, just a 33% playoff chance, 5% chance at being a top two team slash making the championship. I'm the highest with a 50-50 playoff odds and 15% chance of being a top two team. And Tyler is in the middle, swaying towards Savan, 38% chance at the playoffs, 10% chance at a championship appearance. So, Savan, we'll start with you. Brief concluding thoughts on his team and his 1/3 chance at the playoffs.
Yeah, I've laid out the my thoughts on being just a wide range of outcomes, and I tend to land on the lower end. I don't exactly remember where I have him in the total power rankings, but I think it's in the bottom third, and so I think he's at the higher end of the bottom. I think I have him at 9, if I'm being honest.
I believe so.
And so I think if you just group those bottom four, he's got the highest per chance. That gives him a 1/3 chance, which equals 33%, I think. So yeah, I'm just on the lower end, but definitely can see uh, if I had a different perspective, I understand why Reed's at 50.
Tyler, you're swaying, slinging a little closer to Savan. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean the risk of the team age without beating a dead horse is just the biggest concern for me.
The
So,
numbers, what scares you?
the, what do you
The
mean?
risk of the team age, what does that mean?
Like the risk associated with the team age and like the
That
fall
could
off of
fall off.
production.
Yep.
Yeah.
That
You,
kind of makes sense, I guess.
I mean, I know Savant's got me.
Yeah, we're slinging towards each other, so
That makes sense. I'm a little bit higher. I think that his ceiling is solid, but I think his floor is higher that than I would say. I think they give him credit for. I have a number of teams kind of in that 50% playoff odds, but I have his championship odds a little bit lower because I think his ceiling is a little bit lower, but I think his floor is higher than other teams in that tier. So overall, 50-50 chance of the playoffs, which again, when half the league makes the playoffs, I think that's pretty fair. So yeah, Andrew, your thoughts on what we had to say here on the season predictions?
Gonna prove him wrong. No, I think these are all, I mean, the rationale is understandable. I personally would probably lean closer to what Reed's got there as
Let's
far as
go.
like the 50-50 goes for the playoffs. I just the way I see that kind of that median outcome for my team is being, you know, within a win or two of the playoff picture. And so just really being a matter of if I'm able to pull off those couple wins that gets me into the back half of the bracket or back half of the seeding. I think I've definitely got a chance this year. As far as championship aspirations, I think there's certainly a lot that has to go right, especially to Tyler's point, the age and health and whatnot you want to take into factor there. A lot has to go right to achieve that kind of 80th, 90th percentile outcome where, you know, I'm rolling there. But I think the 50% playoff odds are fair. And then as soon as you get into the playoffs, like anybody can get hot, right?
Hmm.
So I think really if we're talking about playoff odds versus championship odds, I don't think I would give myself uh, too big of a discrepancy there. Like as long as I'm in the playoffs, I then feel like I'm a contender.
Hmm. Yeah,
I,
I think.
Especially if I get to, I will note real quick, if I get to the point where I'm making the playoffs, I think that means things are going pretty well for this team.
Hmm.
And so
That's
a
fair.
lot of like outcomes that needed to go well are going well, which then makes me, in a pretty solid position, unless, right, like injuries or things like that are coming late in the season where I'm not having guys for the playoffs despite having made them, namely like a hot start to the season but bad finish or something like that.
Hmm. I think for me, like when you look at what your team did last year, which again, you finished second to last in the league, but we're still one win off of the playoff teams. Obviously, the points scored were behind, but you look at what happened last year. Tyreek suffered greatly from a Tua injury. Brandon Ayuk blew out his knee. CMC barely played. Like you're looking at a team that has massive bounce back potential just purely off of the players that you already have. And then you add in the couple of moves you've made this offseason and whatever might happen before the season. Like I think there's real potential to see that bounce back up. Like I'm not saying you go from a 6-win team to a 10-win team, but a 7 or 8-win team seems perfectly valuable or perfectly reasonable given what you dealt with last year injury wise and the depth you've added and created on the team this year.
I do have a follow-up question for you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay, so all four of us, this is a scenario I'm giving you. So all four of us make the playoffs. I want you to order us in which order you would like to beat us in the playoffs. So you play one of us round one of us in the semis, and one in the championship.
Oh man.
What a question.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I think I'd go just knock Savan off in the first round.
Easy
And
money.
Yeah, I think, Cevan has proven himself to be the type of guy that gets boosted by ego. So the sooner we can
Mhm.
get that, squashed, I think the better for the purposes of the league and
Accurate
its
assessment.
members. Tyler, truthfully, like Tyler, like I think you just fall in the middle here just by result of my other two preferred outcomes, and
Yep.
then Reed in the championship just because personal relationship with Reed and would love nothing more than to hold that over him.
Hmm.
Saban, I'm sure you can attest to that
yes.
and how much you've kind of been able to hold that over his head. Plus the fact that Reed losing in the championship in back-to-back years would just
That'd be
be
tough.
absolutely demoralizing. I would
At that
love that.
point,
I would love nothing more.
at that point, I think I'd rather miss the championship than losing the championship again. No, wait, that's not
Right.
true.
Exactly. That's why I picked you to be in the
I,
championship, losing to me.
I get money if I make the championship, and obviously whatever money I get from being the regular season scoring leader, I'll get that. But like, I lied. I think the money that I wouldn't have to send out at that point, because again, I don't ever make money as the commissioner. I simply send out less money, so it never actually feels like I win money. I just send out less money. So I lied. I take another demoral as long as it's not to Savan. I'm okay losing the championship again as long as it's to not Savan. So
I've, I, I'm gonna be honest, like Andrew, over the years, you'll get to know me. Like these guys have had to deal with me for almost our whole lives, right? Like we were looking at old Facebook messages from over half our lives ago last night. But like I've just assumed the villain role, and everybody that knows me just knows that I'm
he
I'm
is that
just
guy, pal.
yes. But I'm like these guys like me, right?
Meh.
I think.
Depends on the
Okay.
day.
I'm basically what I'm getting at is I'm not actually an asshole, but I really like to stir the pot a lot as much as humanly possible.
Controversial take.
Tyler likes me at least
Yeah.
Do you like him when he knocks you out of the playoffs?
every year.
Uh,
I didn't think
I,
so. Probably an asshole. Okay. Any final thoughts here from not Andrew before we wrap up?
I don't think so. It's
Okay.
fun. I
Andrew.
felt, I
Okay. Sorry. I know you continue speaking, Tyler.
was just say, I felt kind of dumb in parts of the episode when talking about Joe Flacco and my hot take, but
Sorry, you felt kind of what?
dumb.
Well, good. You should feel dumb after that take. That's the point of the pod is to make people feel self-conscious about their takes.
Yeah. I'll come back better next year.
Good. Andrew, thank you for coming on. We appreciate having you. Any final thoughts from you before we close it out here?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be on. I like this podcast a lot. You guys are doing a good job. I truthfully haven't really been tuned into the whole like team overview series to this point, but I was really liking like the mock draft episodes, things like that when we were closer to the rookie draft.
Hmm.
They're these have been pretty entertaining, so I say keep rolling with it. You got my vote of confidence. Yeah, this was fun. One quick thing, Savon, I'm seeing your name as Savon Walton. Where is the Monkus in this equation here?
It's the
I
middle
just
Yeah.
thought
name.
you were always Savon Monkus.
So, okay. So, uh, as quickly as possible. So, way back when in like elementary school, my gamer tag was Money, and everybody referred to me in real life as like C Money. And then fast forward to when Fortnite came out, it just gradually transferred to Monkas, and I made a Fortnite account called the Monkas. And then ever since then, about what was that, 2017? It's been like my gamer tag and my alias for everything. And now it's just like my second name.
I was gonna say I've also asked this question because I don't know how you naturally get to that point, but
It just
it's
transferred
fair.
from money,
Yeah.
C money, the mun, and then when it went from the mun, you just add cuss on it, and then it was monkus.
Everyone, make sure you check out It's Money on YouTube with a Z at the on It's. Some banger content from Call of Duty back then.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you made it this far, we appreciate your viewership. Uh, we will have Mr. Cam K on next week, and we will see you then.